You spent the money on things that you think you need, or you spent the money on helping your relatives, and all of a sudden you've got an $8,000 bill at the end of the year to the government. I guess this is a good segue into kind of some of the fiscal policies that are put in place, because it's the same idea, right? Pumping money into the economy, allowing not just companies but individuals to continue their economic activity. So what I'm really thinking about here is Canada announced the CERB, the Canadian Emergency Response Benefit, and that gives $500 a week to all Canadians. Actually, permanent residents and foreign workers as well qualify for this benefit. So they get $500 a week if they've lost their income, if they're taking care of someone who's a loved one, if they have to take care of children, if they were self-employed and they lost their income. So as long as you've lost your income, you're now qualified for that $500 a week, and you're able to get that money to continue to pay your rent and to continue to buy groceries. So, I mean, one of the interesting things about this is there's an incentive issue here, right? I think particularly if we think about frontline staff in grocery stores, most of them are earning minimum wage. So in our case, it's $15 an hour. There are a number of grocery chains that have announced that they're giving temporary raises to these frontline staff in the order of like $2 to $3 to $4, something in that range. So let's call it $20 an hour, right?
Yeah.
And then you work for 40 hours in a week, a full-time position. That's $800 a week that you're getting. Some people might say, well, if I do nothing, I'm going to earn $500 a week. I want to be safe, and I'd rather be safe and give up on that extra $300, right? Like, is there like an incentive issue here?
There might be, but it's also a safety issue, right? Like, you cannot blame that person because they're scared. Like, it's hard to tell that person, I'll give you more money, just go and be on the front line, when they're really scared to do that, right? It might motivate someone else who needs that money to take that spot, but I think it is what it is, right?
So I think that's a good point, though. Like, there will be folks who are willing to take the extra $300 a week. It's a lot of money. It's not trivial, right? You're looking at something like $1,400 a month extra. And they might actually be really desperate for that money, especially some folks who have lost their jobs because of this. Going down to $500 a week might not be feasible for them. So at least $800, they're still able to pay their rent and buy their groceries. So even though there will be some people who, what we're saying is, even though there will be some people who will kind of self-select out of that workforce, you're probably going to see some people self-select into it, because there's still that increase in I guess it's a risk premium for those workers as well. So I've been watching all of Trudeau's addresses almost every single day. And one of the questions that some of the reporters have been posing regarding the CERB is, why doesn't Canada just give $2,000 to everybody, and then like maybe claw back later for those who don't need it? What are some of the issues there? I feel like there would be some complications.
So if it is like clawing back the entire $2,000, then I have a problem with it. But if you're thinking about something like a basic income, that might be a good idea. But again, this is not the time to implement such a thing. Maybe post-COVID, we can do something about it. But either ways, at this stage, I think that not everyone needs that $2,000 per month, right? There are people who may still have their jobs, right? Who may be still doing okay. If they have issues with paying their mortgages, things like that, that's a different issue. But if you have your job and you're doing fine, for the most part, you may not really need that $2,000. And the other thing is, we also have to think about the systems these governments have in place. These are like 20, 30-year-old systems, and making changes like this is not such an easy task. So they're already running at like 20 times, 30 times usual capacity. Now, do we want to add more changes and risk failure? Then that'll be the downside is just massive, right? So for this reasons, like doing a $2,000 across the board, it's not a good idea at this time, in my opinion.
So I guess like what we're saying is, if we do a little bit of filtering up front, and kind of narrow down the target a little bit up front, then we're able to make the system a little bit simpler so that we can implement it in a faster way. Whereas if we kind of say, you know what, let's just give it everybody the $500 a week, then we actually have to start designing more complex things into the system so that we can account for clawing it back at the end. So I'm thinking specifically about if we're thinking about basic income, then what you have to do is actually start to integrate it into the tax payable of your paychecks, right? So you have to actually work with companies to now change their payroll system to withhold more income tax, so that you can claw back that money at the end of the year. Or the alternative is, if you don't withhold more money from each paycheck, then at the end of the year, you might have, if this goes on for 4 months, 5 months, then I might have all of a sudden $8,000, $10,000 owing at the end of the year. And in the meantime, I might have spent it, especially in the middle income, where you just, you're not sure what the actual rules are. You might not be clear on who's going to get clawed back, who's not going to get clawed back. You're not sure if you're going to qualify. And so you spent the money on things that, you think you need, or you spent the money on helping your relatives. And all of a sudden, you've got an $8,000 bill at the end of the year to the government. That could be a huge impact to someone. Yeah. And then whereas I think even if we take it further to like the people who do have money, there's ways of there are tax loopholes that you can hide some of the revenue, or you can book higher, you can realize higher expenses, or kind of claim expenses from previous years, and then all of a sudden you've just given a handout to people who do have that capital and that flexibility to take advantage of that.
But for salaried people, there are very little loopholes, though, right? Like if you're a business, maybe. But I mean, like if you're just a salaried person, there's very little you can do from a tax evasion standpoint, right? Yeah,
but if we're giving $500 to everybody, like if we're saying everybody, then the people I'm thinking of are not just salaried people, right? The people who are earning income from other sources as well. Yeah.
Fair. That's fair. And in this method, like you leverage the existing EI system, where when you are trying to submit a claim into EI, you also submit a claim into CRB, right? So it's like there's already infrastructure that you can easily leverage. Spreading out $2,000 like across the board, it's not a good idea.
Yeah. So what about kind of the wage subsidy for companies that are losing 30% revenue year over year? So this is something that is what the Canadian government is doing is if your company loses 30% of revenue, or they actually prorate it to 15% for March, but in April, May, June, it's going to be 30%. Compared to prior year, or compared to the average of January and February, then you're actually going to get a wage subsidy of 75% of an employee's wages. That seems pretty big. What are your reactions to that?
But there's a cap, right? Like it's only up to $58,000 or something.
Yes, that's correct. So
So the $58,000 is still for. I mean, for most people, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot amount of money, right? Like it's okay money. So from an incentivizing standpoint, I don't know, but I think that will help mass companies from doing mass layoffs, right? For example, Air Canada laid off 16,000 people. But now, because of this wage subsidy program went into effect, they rehired those 16,000 people so that they at least get some money. So I think it's a good idea, and it incentivizes small and medium business not to fire people, because you have to also think about it in this way. If you fire people and they're gone, and when the economy comes back again, it's going to be twice as hard to hire those people, right? Like to hire people with skill sets to do the job. So that's going to put another level of strain on small and medium businesses. This way, they can still somehow keep their existing workforce and ride out this pandemic.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. The intent is for sure to have these businesses maintain that relationship with their employee and continue the employment. Personally, I'm of two minds about it. I do think there's obviously value in keeping that employee-employer relationship. There's already that rapport. There's already you already know that employee can do the job that they're employed to do. But at the same time, I think there are opportunities for citizens to actually upskill in this time if they're not otherwise employed, and then maybe find jobs that are higher value, or find jobs that are more suited to what they want to do. And it's a little bit of a reset button that allows for a part of the workforce to actually shuffle around and find jobs that are better suited to their skill set or to their interests. I think
I disagree, right? So this 75% wage subsidy is for survival, and if that particular individual is truly motivated, they will still upskill themselves and try to look for something better, right? They will see the risk in their current situation and try to go for something better. So I don't necessarily think that this wage subsidy is going to disincentivize someone from upskilling themselves. This is more about those people survival and their family survival,
and then the survival of the businesses that are actually employing them as well, and tiding them over for until this wave is over.
Because it's going to cost twice as much to find new people and retrain those new people when the economy comes up, right? So, yeah.